This child was born in a post-apocalyptic world full of zombies. She is the continuation of life but also brings hope to the people, but her mother died in childbirth, the father in a huge blow, and mental problems, and even the baby's cries cannot hear. Rick picked up the axe and locked himself in a cell full of zombies. He needed to kill zombies to vent his anger. Herschel checked the baby's health. She looked very healthy but needed to eat baby food, otherwise, she would not live long. Daryl said firmly, he would not let her die. They could not lose anyone else, and he had to go out to find baby food. Before he left, he urged Beth that Carl had just lost his mother and his father had become unhinged, and he hoped she would look after him. And then he took Maggie out to look for a formula. Glenn is in the square for the dead friends digging graves, and Vincent too also comes over to help. The previous events also let them win the trust of Rick and others, but Glenn wants to do these things himself because whether it's Lori or T-Dog, they're not friends anymore but real family, and Glenn wants to leave one for Carol. Vincent was very envious of a few people. He only had one such friend in his life, while Glenn had a group. Because the team needed to do too many things, Glenn had no choice but to accept the help of two people. Herschel found Glenn, hoping he could go to persuade Rick. The two were a little sad. They had come here, but in 3 days, they lost 3 companions, especially T-Dog. He was the kindest in the team. If he hadn't closed that door, the casualties would only have been greater. Glenn suddenly said that, although it is not right, but he is willing to use the lives of others, in exchange for their lives, the successive deaths of companions, so that the once kind Glenn will no longer easily trust any stranger. He does not want to experience such things again. Afterward, Glenn came to the Isle of the Sea area, where the ground was full of corpses. Rick, surprisingly a person, cleaned up all the zombies here. Finally, at the corner, he saw the figure of Rick. Glenn cautiously walked towards him, and see Rick was okay. Then rest assured. Then he said to Rick, Rick is now obviously in some delirium. Glenn's words as if he could not hear. His spirit has reached the edge of collapse, until after seeing the person as Glenn, then let go, and a hand throws him out. After that, Rick continues to walk towards the depths of the tunnel. On the other hand, Maggie and Daryl also came to the family's nursery. Fortunately, there is milk powder and bottles. Daryl also caught a large rat on the cabinet. The night to the crowd to add a meal. It was late in the evening before Daryl and Maggie returned to the prison, where they were greeted by Glenn and Vincent at the door. Back in the cell, the baby had been crying for a long time. I did not expect Daryl, the tough guy, actually like the little guy and even take the initiative to do the daddy. After drinking his fill, the little one is quiet. At this point everyone remembered that they have not given the child's name. Carl wanted to use the name of the lost companion, but Daryl jokingly said, simply call him a small tug girl. The crowd got to relax at this moment. Perhaps this is the power of the newborn baby. The next day, Daryl went to the cemetery and put the Cherokee roses he had picked yesterday in front of Carol's grave because Carol made him feel the beauty of helping others. I never thought I'd never see again so soon. Rick in the cell also came to the place where Lori died, but her body had disappeared, leaving only a ground of blood and some broken meat. Walked a short distance, Rick found a zombie with a stomach, is leaning against the wall, apparently just full. Did not see Lori. Rick's heart incomparable collapse. With a knife and this zombie kept venting their anger. He sat on the floor, his heart like death, when the sound of a baby crying came, bringing him back to his senses a little. And just then a shrill phone rang, not far away, in a small town. A figure broke into the store. She kicked the zombie down and then chopped off its head with a single slash, followed by 2 more zombies. She turned around and cut them down directly. Then she arrived at the landing site. Inside, 2 zombies were locked up and made into human sticks. She was the mysterious person who had saved Andrea in the woods before. Michonne, 8 months, experienced too many things. Andrea still survived. 2 people rely on each other, living a wandering life. I don't know how long it took. A helicopter flew from the sky. Inside sat several soldiers. They were heading towards the mission location, but the soldiers obviously underestimated the perilous nature of the human heart in the end times. The sudden sound of metal impact, so that the entire aircraft instantly out of control. Black smoke, obviously they were under attack. In the end, the plane crashes into the woods, and this scene happens to be seen by Andrea and Michonne in the distance. The 2 then decided to rush to the crash site. Andrea had been feverish for a long time but could not find any medication to treat her, so Michonne told her to rest aside while she went to the helicopter alone to check if there were any survivors. Unfortunately, A soldier was thrown out and broke into 2 pieces on the spot. She was just about to check the cabin's interior but found a convoy coming this way not far away. Michonne had to rush to hide and then instructed Andrea not to make a sound. When the car arrived, several strong men came down from above. These people were well equipped, were veterans of killing zombies. Do not know whether it was friend or foe. The 2 could only first sneak observation. Soon, these people found the pilot of the plane is still alive, and then dragged him out of the cockpit. Andrea thinks they are here to save people. They must not be bad-hearted, and they can join them, but Michonne is very cautious and refuses to do so. At that moment, the zombies behind her suddenly stirred up. In order not to attract each other's attention, Michonne directly chopped off 2 zombies' head, but when she crouched down again not long, there was a sudden movement behind her. The other side told them not to try to resist. When Andrea turned around, she found that the person was Daryl's brother Merle, who also recognized Andrea. And then the 2 were blindfolded and brought to a place. Merle took them to a place. Surprisingly, the people there did not give them a hard time but let the doctor for Andrea to carry out the treatment. Andrea asked the doctor what this place was, but the other side did not dare to say. At that moment, Merle came in and said he didn't expect him to be alive. Right? When he first cut off his arm to escape the rooftop, but almost died because of blood loss. And then they brought him here, and now he is living a good life. And afterwards asked Andrea if his brother is okay. Andrea told Merle that they hadn't seen each other for a long time and that he and Rick had gone back to look for you that day, but he had disappeared. When he heard Rick's name, Merle hated his teeth. If that bastard hadn't handcuffed him to the rooftop, he wouldn't have broken his arm. Andrea told him that many people in the camp had died, and then Rick led everyone in the post-apocalyptic struggle to survive. And she and they had been separated for 8 months, and now they were alive or dead. She was not sure. After listening to these, Merle also felt some inexplicable sadness. Not long, a handsome man came in. He was the leader here. They called him Governor, but the perceptive Michonne immediately sensed that the man in front of her was no good. Now Michonne just wanted to leave here, but Governor told her to go anytime. But today is very late. Why not go tomorrow? He would return the weapons to them and give them some food. And then Governor took the 2 on a tour of the camp. Andrea could not believe her eyes. This was a small town, clean and tidy. The air did not smell rotten, and the entrance and exit of the city were heavily guarded. This was simply a paradise in the post-apocalyptic world. Afterward, Governor arranges a place for 2 people to live. There is carefully prepared food and clean and tidy clothes. Andrea some incredulous. This is exactly the scene before the outbreak of the post-apocalyptic setting. The next day, the town was bustling with activity. The woman with her told Andrea that 74 people were living there, and they were all living a quiet life under the shelter of the governor. The town has not had a zombie invasion for 68 days. The survivors who live here must strictly abide by the rules set by the governor. They are not allowed to go out after dark. They try to avoid light and sound, and there are armed guards at the entrances and exits 24 hours a day. Andrea thought it was very nice here, but Michonne always felt a strange feeling. On the other hand, Governor arrives at a secret laboratory. Dr. Milton is studying the 2 zombies around Michonne. He found that after the jaws and arms are cut off, the zombies lose their desire to eat, and the scent they emit can help humans become invisible among the zombies. Governor admired Michonne's wisdom and invited them to have breakfast together. Andrea had already dropped her guard against Governor, while Milton was interested in Michonne's 2 walkers and asked him if he knew them originally. As a result, Michonne wants to avoid talking to him because she sees Governor, who has already taken her knife as a collector's item. Afterward, Michonne tells Andrea that she doesn't trust the governor at all and that they must leave here as soon as possible, while Andrea thinks she's too suspicious and wants to stay in town for a few more days before considering whether to go. Michonne was a little disappointed, but Andrea thought that the 2 had been together for 8 months, and the 2 walkers had been staying with them and that she could kill them without hesitation. Michonne was so angry that she trembled a bit. Andrea so saw her. Why kill the 2 zombies? She did not know in her heart. And then she left with a disappointed face. The drivers who was brought back to the infirmary was also treated, and he told Governor that they were originally an army protecting a survivor base. Protecting a survivor base, but someone inside died and turned into a zombie, causing the entire base to fall. Only their squad escaped with supplies. They had agreed to meet at a clearing 60 kilometers away, but their plane was attacked and crashed in the woods. It didn't take long for Governor to drive up to the rendezvous point, and the military team was immediately alerted. Governor kindly stated that he had saved their teammate, Lieutenant Wells, and that he had asked him to come here to find them. Hearing the name of their teammate, These soldiers immediately relaxed their vigilance but did not expect Governor instantly change his face and directly shoot a sneak attack, killing 2 people, followed by the sound of gunfire in all directions. A sudden change of events hit them by surprise. Soon, the military squad was killed by all the techniques. Afterward, Governor brought the squad's cars and supplies back to the town, and all the town's residents gathered. Governor told everyone here that they had rescued a pilot yesterday who was begging him to bring his teammates to live in the town. But unfortunately, by the time they arrived, it was too late, and walkers attacked them. Although Governor brought back their supplies, each should be grateful and pray for those departed GIs. After listening to Governor's speech, Andrea felt that this place was perfect for her, while Michonne had a vague feeling that something was wrong. Michonne came to the car when no one was around to investigate and found bullet holes all over the car and a lot of blood on the vehicle. How could the zombies shoot at the car? There must be something hidden in this. Afterward, Michonne sneaked into Governor's office and got her weapon back. She looked through Governor's diary, which recorded the town's plans, but the list of zombie attack deaths behind it seemed very strange. After Penny's name, there were all vertical bars, and the list was so dense that she couldn't turn to the end of it. At that moment, Governor's voice came from outside the door, and Michonne had to leave the place. After that, Michonne sneaked into the back of the town, where she found many iron cages, and there was one full of zombies. Although I do not know what it is for, it was a scourge to stay. Michonne let all the zombies out. Michonne felt like she hadn't broken a sweat in a long time. Just right took these zombies to practice. No doubt, Michonne's skills in the early days of the outbreak of the apocalypse were also top level, and soon zombies were all solved by her. The man who came to feed the zombies happened to see. He took Michonne to the second-floor governor's office, and instead of taking Michonne's weapon, Governor told her that it was impolite to peep into other people's privacy. Although they keep the zombies in captivity, they are used for scientific research, and perhaps someday in the future, they will find a way to save everyone. After that, Governor starts to offer Michonne an olive branch. He says she have good skills and are not afraid of zombies. So why not join Merle's research team and live here forever? But Michonne snatched the knife back and put it directly on Governor's jaw. Michonne understands that the man in front of her is very dangerous, but until Governor does something to hurt her and Andrea, she won't make a move against him. After that, Michonne left the area, but Governor, a man with a grudge, quickly called Andrea over and complained that Michonne had broken into Governor's office, stolen a weapon, and then killed all the walkers in the town's custody. Andrea is a little confused as to why the town is holding walkers. Governor told her that they were experiments for the research institute, and then he said that Michonne had put a knife to his neck, which was a barbaric act, and that Michonne had brought the outside set into the town. Governor hopes that Andrea can go to persuade Michonne. Andrea was successfully brainwashed. Michonne wanted to leave here as soon as possible, but Andrea said that this place is perfect. She is too sensitive, and also accused Michonne and the town of all kinds of behavior. In the end, Michonne had to leave the place alone in disappointment, and Governor would not stop her at all for the sake of his image. When Michonne is away from the town, and then lets Merle with 3 people out to chase. But I did not expect that Michonne's combat power was so high that she killed 3 people before they could react, which was simply too scary. Not far away, Merle rushed to shoot, but Michonne was still hit in the thigh. After that, the two were chasing each other in the woods. I don't know how long it took, but Michonne finally got rid of Merle's pursuit, but she just breathed a sigh of relief when several more zombies appeared in front of her. Michonne was about to draw her knife, but the zombies walked right past her as if they didn't see her. Michonne realized that the blood of the zombies could hide scent. Michonne had nowhere to go but to an abandoned town when the sound of a car came from the distance. A red pickup truck came here. The visitors were none other than Glenn and Maggie. They came here to look for milk powder. Michonne just watched for a long time, and the two also found what they needed. Michonne heard their conversation and learned that they were living in prison. Suddenly, a man's voice came, and the 2 men were immediately alerted. Glenn recognizes the other man as Merle, who is not dead. Merle happily drops the gun in his hand and tells the 2 men not to be impulsive. Merle inquired about Daryl's whereabouts and was overjoyed to learn that his brother was still alive. Mel asked Glenn to take him to see Daryl, but Glenn simply cannot take such a dangerous man back to the prison. See the 2 soft, hard, do not eat. He shot directly from behind sneak attack. When Glenn ran over to take a look and found that Maggie had been held hostage by him, Merle told Glenn to drive away from here, and Glenn could only obediently do so. Mel will take the 2 back to town with the intention of asking for the address and then ransacking their camp.